It looks like we're going to be in for a long one today. Last week, I talked about the sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha. This week, we'll be discussing the fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi. Tonight, we're going to talk about Marlon Jackson Jr., not the Marlon Jackson from the Jackson Five. Marlon Jackson Jr. He was a pledge from Delaware State University, and he was pledging Kappa Alpha Psi. We're also going to talk about the latest hazing ritual from the same fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, involving a Secret Service agent. Yeah, correct. A U.S. Secret Service agent. And I believe he was from, let me see if I can find the University of Miami. Today, we're going to cover two incidents or two hazing events. I thought today I was going to just cover the Marlon Jackson incident of hazing, alleged hazing. Alleged, I'm going to have to say alleged because he also, like Victoria Carter, died in a car crash from sleep deprivation. And this incident took place in 2019. This new incident took place just days ago, and I'm just finding this out today. So, and it's so ironic how these two incidents, although they're 7 years in separation, it's from the same exact fraternity. Before I get into it, I also want to do a recap of the last video that I posted. And the sorority member, her name is Lala Jenkins. I pronounced it wrong in the last post that I put up about the sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha. Her name is Lala Jenkins, and she went into what the set rituals are all about. She also explained where the origins of set derive from. So I thought it would be a good segue to start with the history of the Temple of Set, where that so-called religion is today, and just go over the inner workings of these rituals, because these set rituals are a part of the initiation process, I believe, for sororities and fraternities alike. I'm also going to pause for commentary so that way I won't get dinged with copyright. All right, so here goes.
It says the Temple of Set is a occult initiatory order founded in 1975. The temple was established in the United States in 1975 by Michael and what's his last name? An American political scientist, military officer, and a high-ranking member to Anton Lavey's Church of Satan. It says, dissatisfied with the direction in which Lavey was taking the church, he resigned and, according to his own claim, embarked on a ritual to invoke Satan, who revealed to him a sacred text called the Book of Coming Forth by Night. According to him, in this work, Satan revealed his true name is to be that of Set, which has been the name used by his followers in ancient Egypt.
So there you have it. That is the origins of the Temple of Set. Okay. And with that being said, I'm going to show you who these members she's talking about. The members of the Church of Satan, Michael Aquino and Anton Lavey. So here you have, bring this up real quick. This is Michael Aquino right here. And as you can see here, in his old age, he was deeply embedded with the US military. He was a political advisor. He was a political scientist. This is Michael Aquino right here, Temple of Set. This is him in his younger years. And as I mentioned in the last video, he went on a talk show in the mid 80s, early 90s, representing the Temple of Set. This right here, this is Anton Lavey. Now, he was the founding member. Like, he started the Church of Satan. This is to show you how their influence ran very, very deep. This picture right here is of Anton Lavey, Michael Aquino, with the late Sammy Davis Jr. And let me tell you something. I knew about the story of Sammy Davis Jr. being enthralled and immersed in the Church of Satan. And this man here, all his life, he was looking for acceptance, the same like these sorority members and fraternity members. Sammy Davis Jr. was always looking for a place in this world. And when he was big back in his day, no one accepted him being with or being in an interracial marriage. He had to please or appease Hollywood by getting with a woman or marrying a woman he didn't love, a Black woman. His demise was horrific. He died penniless and broke. His widow died penniless and broke. When he got sick with lung cancer, the very same people that he was rolling with and befriended him stole things out of his house when he was sick, took advantage of his illness, and stole items out of his house. His late wife, his widow, was so destitute that she was living in an apartment in New York, a roach infested apartment. And the way that she had to make money in the very end was collecting bottles to sustain herself financially. This is what being involved in Satanism does to you. This is what happens when you sell your soul or give away your soul. Now we're going to get into someone who basically is a part of the Temple of Satan. And she's describing Setianism, which to me is no different. They changed it from Satanism or Temple of Set, which basically was derived on what the founders wanted it to be, Satan worship. Now it's Setianism, which is based off of the god Set, the Egyptian god Set. This member right here, I'm going to let her describe for you how it all began. And she's actually a member of the Temple of Set today. So I'm going to play this for you, and I'll let her briefly tell you about the principles of it.
Genealogy of contemporary Satanism invariably returns to that peculiar confluence of factors in mid-1960s San Francisco, where Anton Lavey's Church of Satan emerged as something between carnival sideshow and a serious religious experiment. We could suspect that Lavey himself would have appreciated this ambiguity. The scholarly consensus, such as it exists, tends to emphasize the theatrical dimension of Lavey's project, though perhaps we risk overlooking the earnestness that can lurk beneath carefully orchestrated spectacle. After all, the very act of donning a cape and proclaiming oneself high priest of Satan requires a certain commitment and also self-confidence, even if that commitment is primarily to the bit. Lavey's Satanic Bible, the curious amalgam of Ayn Rand, Ragnar Redbeard, and what one might charitably call creative borrowing from various occult sources, codified a philosophy of unapologetic egoism that stripped away metaphysical pretensions in favor of raw self-assertion. Into this milieu arrived Michael Aquino in 1969. a figure whose academic training in political science and military bearing seemed oddly incongruous with the bohemian theatricality of Lavey's circle.
You heard that? Bohemian. Now, I wasn't going to pull this up. A lot of the political officials and CEOs and high ranking members go to this grove to worship Satan. So, we'll pull this up real quick and see what kind of information we can get on the Bohemian Grove. Actually, let me find some images of it. Look at that. Do you guys see this? This is what your past presidents and CEOs and billionaires and high ranking leaders in industry go to worship Baal, which is their version of Satan. You see this? She just said bohemian, right? So that really kind of caught me there because I'm like, there is a Bohemian Grove where all these people go to do what they need to do to give Satan its reverence, right? I'm gonna let her speak and continue.
So perhaps it was precisely this incongruity that would prove generative. The divergence between Lavey and Aquino appears in retrospect almost overdetermined, where Lavey deployed Satan as a consciously adopted symbol, a mask worn with knowing irony. Aquino seemed to entertain and would eventually embrace the notion that behind the symbol lay something ontologically substantial, what he would come to identify not with the Christian devil, but with the Egyptian deity Set.
I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm not even gonna go into it anymore. Y'all get the picture. This is the origin. And mind you, I'm not gonna go into it now, but in the previous video that I did, I went into the origins of why these fraternities and sororities were started. These rituals that they do, these practices that they do to get the pledges initiated, it's all ritualistic and based on occultism that derive from Satanism. The same Freemasons that started these sororities and fraternities that brought it into fruition were the same Freemasons that started a lot of the Black churches, which is very ironic. And when you think about it, it's like very dichotomous in nature because you have the Freemasons who come from a very exclusionary aspect of participating in their group or their separate secret society. So it's very like exclusive, where the Black churches that were formed based on their ideologies was very inclusive for the Black community. So you can see the disparity there. You can see like the confusion in of itself. And the mere reason why they wanted to start the Black fraternities and Black sororities is because they were not included into the white fraternities and sororities. Even today, there's so many deaths within the white community, within these, and particularly fraternities. I haven't heard much about the sororities. Maybe the sororities within the white community operate in a dignified way. I don't know. But in the fraternities, there are so many hazing deaths. So the HBCUs, the colleges and the universities who adopted the Greek culture that has its origins in secret society Freemasonry, you got to ask yourself, what's the outcome? Well, let me get into that. I'm going to close this out and I'm going to get into the story of the Kappa Alpha Psi pledge. His name is Marlon Jackson Jr. He passed away in 2019 from alleged hazing. Right. Here we go.
This video discusses hazing and student death. Viewer discretion is advised. He hadn't slept in days. His body was running on fumes, but he couldn't stop. Marlon Jackson believed he was earning his place in something bigger than himself. Instead, that belief cost him his life. On February 23rd, 2019, Marlon's car veered off the road. So some will say it was just a tragic accident. But if you look deeper into this, if you listen to his family, you'll see that this wasn't just an accident at all. It was the end result of hazing, silence, and a system that allowed it to happen. I'm Chris, and this is Culture Unplugged, where the silence ends. Marlon Jackson wasn't just another student. He was 23 years old, studying business at Delaware State University. He was known for his warmth and his humor, the kind of person who would stop and ask how you were doing. Even if he was late for class, his friends described him as a loyal.
You know what I noticed? All of the pledges that I covered that passed away had promising futures. They had very great personalities and they were of good character. You know, Victoria Carter, all of her sorority members, her line sisters, spoke of her very well. Her friends, her advisors, her guidance counselor. And if you want to get more into her story, it's on HBO Max. It's called Deadly Devotion. She was spoke very highly of. The same thing with the death of Caleb Wilson of Omega Psi Phi. The community loved him, had a very great character, positive future. Same with the Alpha Kappa Alpha pledges, Christian High and Kanitha Safar, who both had supportive partners who, among one of them that passed away, had a son. Like I said in the previous video, Christian High wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. Kanitha Safar wanted to be a photographer. And they all died at the hands of hazing, just like Marlon Jackson Jr. did. But anyway, let's continue.
Someone who always had your back. So he loved sports. He loved the music. He's a family man, calling home often to make, his mother laugh and checking in on his siblings. But Marlon dreamed of graduating and building a better life. His story should have been about success and achieving milestones. Instead, it became about a young life cut short by a toxic culture. And so we understand that this is a system that once you get locked into this, as far as joining or trying to attempt to join an organization, your whole life gets consumed into it. So when Marlon began pledging Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated, he was stepping into a world filled with pride, history, and tradition. But he was also stepping into something darker, a secret culture of hazing. Reports from his family and friends tell us he went days without sleep. So
he went days without sleep. That's the same thing that happened to Victoria Carter, who crashed into a tree because she was so sleep deprived. How is it brotherhood? How is it sisterhood where the activity for you pledging is to get into a vehicle and drive while you're so sleep deprived? And like this man will tell it that's speaking right now, like sleep deprivation is the equivalent to being heavily intoxicated by alcohol. How could your brothers or sisters allow for that to happen? How could they put you under such strenuous and intense pressure to where you can't even think? I mean, it boggles my mind. It shouldn't happen. This is the fourth among the nine, divine nine organizations that I've talked about where deaths were the result. Why is that? How could that happen? I know how it happened because the very root from how it started was evil and demonic. That's why. See, what a lot of these pledges don't really understand is they believe that pledging to these sororities and fraternities, they're actually going to be prestigious men and women. They believe that that would be the result. None of them believe that they're going to lose their lives or be unalived at the hands of hazing. I'm pretty sure they did not have that in their mental banks deciding to pledge, period.
Sleep deprivation is the constant demands and pressure to have to be at certain places at certain times. So he went days without sleep. His mother would look at him and see how exhausted he was. He told her, I just have to push through. I'll be fine. Sleep deprivation is one of the most underestimated killers in hazing. We've seen that story. This is with the Victoria Carter, Brianna Gather story with Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated at East Carolina University.
And I didn't even know that there was a second, because the documentary that I watched on HBO just talked about Victoria Carter. I didn't know that there was a second death because of the same incident where they crashed. Brianna Gather is her name. So like Alpha Kappa Alpha that I covered last week, there was 2 deaths. This is insane. It's insane, and it's taking lives.
This is no joke, okay? Did you know that going, obviously, by the way, if you don't know, 24 hours without sleep, it impairs you just as much as being legally drunk. So imagine trying to study, walk, or drive in that state. Now imagine being told you have to keep going or you don't belong. So it becomes that manipulation, that constant pressure that really keeps you locked into this need to not only...
So part of the hazing process, you go through humiliation rituals, you go through manipulation. There's parts in previous videos where the sorors put so much pressure on the line sisters or the pledges to buy them things where they went completely broke to be part of the process. Mind you, they didn't get initiated yet. These are things that they have to do to prove themselves to be a part of that. And it's like, what? To wear some Greek letters? To wear some Greek letters? And then after you pledge and you become a member of these sororities and fraternities, what? They got you popping up, going to all these different events, these meetings, and then sometimes with other sorors like Melissa Blair in previous videos that I've done explain, each and every time you show up or certain events you show up to, they got you doing these rituals, burning candles, lighting candles, saying certain oaths, and pleading and worshiping certain gods and deities that have nothing to do with you, that has absolutely nothing to do with your culture. This is what goes on, and it operates like a secret society. It does. Hands down, there's no denying it at this point. It's all based in a cult. It's all based on the philosophies of Prince Hall Freemasons. Like, what are we doing here? And I'm pretty sure in their minds, I'm pretty sure that the Prince Hall Freemasons had good intentions for when this thing started. I'm pretty sure in their mind at the time, which is over 100 years ago, they had the intention, Let's build something for ourselves based on the origins of Freemasons that were not of your culture. The white fraternities and secret societies did not include them. And they started these Divine Nine organizations.
Be a part of this organization because now you're getting all these different merits on campus, but you want to be able to look good. You want to know that you actually are able to do this. So you try to replay this as a challenge to yourself over and over again. I could just do it. I could just do it. But the whole time, your health is being affected. So I remember those words. You don't belong unless you prove yourself. So I've lived that pressure. And I know how heavy it feels. But no organization should ever demand you risk your life to prove your worth. So
exactly. He is a victim of hazing. The man speaking right now. Not sure what his name is, and I should have actually got his name before I actually started the recording. But this guy speaking right now, who's speaking on behalf of Marlon Jackson Jr., was a former pledge in a fraternity and was a victim of hazing. So he knows firsthand what that all entails. And why should you have to prove yourself to death for Greek letters or to be part of a Greek organization, an organization that has nothing to do with your culture, your heritage, your ethnicity, none of it? Why?
February 23rd, 2019, Marlon got behind the wheel of his car. He had barely slept. His body and his mind were shutting down. Sometime during that drive, his exhaustion took over. He fell asleep, and when his car crashed, his family's world changed forever. So this wasn't just a random incident.
No one in these colleges or universities that are eyewitness to this stuff is really coming to these students' aid and inquiring. If you see a change in behavior, a change in their energy, a drop in their grades, and you know that they're pledging, you should be advocates of their safety, their protection. Why is it that these young Black men and women go into these HBCUs, getting into these fraternities and sororities, and no one got their back? No one has their back. And what makes it worse, some of these colleges and universities are aware of the hazing. They hear reports on campus and nothing is done. Why? Because they don't want to be implicated in any wrongdoing. That's why. They do not want any eyes on the school, because not only does it make the chapter look bad, it makes the entire college and university look bad. They don't want any negative press. These young men and women, and I'm going to include white men and women too. I'm not going to make this a Black thing. I'm going to also include white men and women because they're someone's child. And I'm pretty sure that their parents did not suspect for them to go into college and basically, when it's all said and done, they have no son, they have no daughter. And here is a parent sending their kid into an institution to better themselves. A lot of these parents, Black and white included. Also, I'm going to talk about all communities as well. I'm going to just bring everybody into this thing. I'm pretty sure that their parents who spent a grip of tuition money and busted their ass to provide for their kids to go to college, I'm pretty sure they did not suspect that they would have no son or no daughter at the end of all of this. And these advisors, these deans of the school, no one is inquiring. It's just another incident that happened at another fraternity or sorority. No one's saying a damn thing. And that's a shame. You got people losing their lives, man. Losing their lives, all for nothing. All for nothing, because they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They believe that joining these Divine Nine institutions would make them a better person, when clearly that ain't the case. Okay, let's get into the hazing incident that happened just days ago. Same fraternity.
Text messages and surveillance video.
Sir, you were arrested pursuant to an arrest
I don't know why.
Federal Secret Service agent, 29-year-old Marquez Pinder, faced a Miami-Dade County judge Monday after.
Okay. I'm gonna go back with this because it just froze.
Federal agent linked to a violent case of hazing. Prosecutors say the victims were just looking to be part of a brotherhood. Instead, they got a brutal beating. Local 10's Roy Ramos is outside the jail in West Miami-Dade with the disturbing details.
The alleged victims in this case beaten with a cane and a paddle, and beaten so severely they both had to be hospitalized. Investigators able to connect the three suspects to this hazing incident through text messages and surveillance video.
Sir, you were arrested pursuant to an arrest warrant. It's charged.
Federal Secret Service agent, 29-year-old Marquez Pinder, faced a Miami-Dade County judge Monday after state prosecutors said he was one of three suspects who took part in fraternity hazing. Hazing, investigators said, that included beatings where two pledges were injured so badly they had to be hospitalized. Pinder, we've learned, is based out of the Secret Service's Miami field office.
I'm gonna go back, y'all, because I see something in these three men's faces, man.
Pledges were injured so badly.
I'm gonna pause it right on here.
Hazing. Hey,
look at them. I don't see any soul in their eyes. No soul. When I look at them, I see Michael Myers. Like, there's no feeling. And these are the young men and women that are inducting your sons and daughters to initiate into or become members of these fraternities and sororities. A lot of them have no empathy, no soul. Or it seems as though once they become frat members and sorors, if they had any empathy or if they had any soul before, it's completely gone. Look at them. There's nothing behind their eyes. You don't know if the people that are helping, or I wouldn't even say helping, that are taking your sons or your daughters through the initiation and pledging process, you have no idea if they are in their right mind. The sorors and these frat members, these frat boys and sorors, it's like, where did their human compassion go? Like, where is their humanity? You mean to tell me you're going to haze someone to a point where you put them in the hospital? You severely haze them to a point that you put them in a hospital? There's something evil and satanic and demonic behind these sororities and fraternities. I am convinced now. Like I said, this is the fourth Divine Nine organization that I've covered. And it's the same thing. It's the same lack of empathy, same lack of care, compassion, and then they want to peddle these organizations to you as if it's all about brotherhood and sisterhood. It could never be about brotherhood and sisterhood. Want to know why? Because the roots, it stems from a satanic, demonic root. So it could never be about brotherhood and sisterhood. And as long as these chapters remain open and a lot of this hazing and these rituals fly under the radar, there will be more deaths. There will be more pledges get seriously injured.
Investigators said that included beatings where 2 pledges were injured so badly they had to be hospitalized. Pender, we've learned, is an agent based out of the Secret Service's Miami field office.
Attempted manslaughter, aggravated battery, and hazing.
Facing the same charges, 26-year-old Jared James and 29-year-old Elijah Dias. Investigators say their alleged hazing stretched across 4 days, beginning back on April 1st in an apartment in Sweetwater, before then moving to a home in Southwest Miami-Dade. In the arrest reports we obtained, it states the 2 alleged victims were pledging to the Kappa Alpha Psi alumni chapter.
No contact with the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity.
One victim is a graduate student in the University of Miami's law program, while the other is an employee with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. Detectives said that.
Okay. One is a Secret Service agent and one is part of a fire rescue. Like, did I hear that right? They have jobs where they're supposed to protect and serve their communities. They have upstanding jobs, and then this is what they do? This is why nobody can't tell me nothing. Like, it's not even about race anymore, bro. It's good and evil now, man. I know we have racial tension going on in America, but like, it ain't even about race no more. It's the battle of good and evil. Because why the hell? How could you have such a prestigious job positions where they're supposed to protect and serve, and then this is what they do? This is what they do to their pledge, whom is supposed to be their brother, whether they make it into the fraternity or not, whether they fail or not. That's still a Black brother you're pledging or you're bringing in to the fraternity. He doesn't deserve dignity and respect. Even if he doesn't make the line or even if he doesn't pass, he still doesn't deserve dignity and respect. He still doesn't deserve protection. It's like all of that brotherhood and camaraderie and even being of the same race, it goes out the window. And this is why I keep talking about the Nolan Wells situation. Like, we blame the other races for doing what they do to us. But it's like, we got to start from home base first. This level of brutality is literally what our oppressors put us through. And you're going to do the same thing? You're going to follow in their footsteps? Something is wrong with that. And if it's supposed to be in these fraternities that are supposed to be upstanding and talk about community and hold such a high reverence for respect, education, becoming a better man, how is this the outcome? How could this possibly be the outcome? Anyway. I'm passionate about this because what I'm looking at here are Black faces.
Were repeatedly beaten with canes and paddles as punishment for failing to answer questions correctly about the fraternity. They say the beatings were so severe, one of the alleged victims began to suffer from vomiting, fevers, and immense pain to his buttocks, suffered kidney failure, and had to undergo surgery.
Okay, so
wait. I didn't even know it was that bad. The beatings were so severe and so bad that the victim suffered kidney failure and had to undergo surgery? Bruh. That, if that is not demonic and if that is not satanic, I don't know what is at this point. You mean to tell me that the victim, and I don't even know who the victim is. Maybe they're keeping that a secret because I've seen in other news reports that they focused on the perpetrators, but they didn't mention the victim. But I have to say, whoever that victim is, may prayers go out to his family. My condolences to his family. I don't think that he's deceased, but I want to send prayers and my condolences. And I'm so sorry that this has happened to your family member. This is wrong. This is wrong. And then on top of that, you also have the parents who may have been part of these sororities and fraternities too, back in their day. I'm pretty sure that they did not suspect that this was supposed to happen or this was going to happen to their child. Like, this is wrong.
Is Rundle releasing a statement that read in part, fraternity hazing might be seen as a tradition creating a sense of belonging and brotherhood. This case, with the victims requiring hospitalization, providing clear-cut examples of hazing's danger. In Florida, hazing is abuse, and it is a crime. All three of those suspects now confined to house arrest. As for the Secret Service, well, they say that that agent has been placed on administrative duties pending the outcome of this investigation. We've also reached out to the fraternity. We are still waiting for a response. For now in West,
they reached out to the fraternity, but they're still waiting for a response. The three suspects in this are under house arrest, and the Secret Service agent is on administrative suspension, I guess, or duty, he said, duty. I'm sorry, he wouldn't be working at all. He would be relieved from all duty at that point. You're a Secret Service agent and this is what you do. Like, bruh, oh, yo. When I tell you that's some like high-rated demonic crap, that is on some, wow, man. Wow. Like, my frustration has gone through the roof. I'm going to try to look for the Roland Martin coverage. I'm going to try to look for his coverage as well, because Roland Martin also covered this too. I'm going to try to find that coverage. I believe I saved it somewhere. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. The guy that covered the Marlon Jackson story also covered the story that just came up. But I'm going to go to Roland Martin as a source because he talked about it as well. Also, I wanted to go to Roland Martin as well because he is also a fraternity member. So I also wanted to get his point of view and his take on the whole thing. Just bear with me though, because I have to find that video. And in the report, it said that this hazing process started back in April, which is at this point going on 4 months ago. So look how long that this transpired. And the problem about these sororities and fraternities is everything is so secretive. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to find this video. And my computer is not liking me right now.
A U.S. Secret Service agent is on administrative leave. after he and two other people were accused in a violent Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity hazing incident that left two people hospitalized. Investigators say on April 1st, 29-year-old agent Marquez Christopher Pender
I am going to go back.
A U.S. Secret Service agent is on administrative leave after he and two other people were accused in a violent Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity hazing incident that left two people hospitalized. Investigators say on April 1st, 29-year-old agent Marquez Christopher Pender and civilians 26-year-old Jared Lamar James and 29-year-old Elijah Delano Diaz were allegedly involved in a hazing that involved prolonged and repeated beatings with canes and paddles. According to prosecutors, the victims who were pledging Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity were beaten after they failed to answer questions about the organization correctly. One of the victims were...
Okay, so this incident did happen 4 months ago. My question is, why is it just being reported? Because the news reports from NBC, ABC, I even saw that PBS covered it. It was uploaded to their channel just days ago. So if this actually happened in April, how come it's just being reported now? Not unless the victim is suffering from the injuries, and it could be, that the victim is very, and I hope this is not the case, but knocking on death's door. I don't know, but I don't know why it took them this long to actually make the arrest. I have no idea. And this happened back in April of this year. Yeah, I hope they get what's coming to them. I hope justice is definitely served. They all have prestigious jobs. I hope they all lose their jobs. I really hope so, because this should not have happened.
Of attempted manslaughter with a deadly weapon, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, causing great bodily harm, and hazing with a deadly weapon. One of the victims is a University of Miami graduate student. This, for me, Jolanda, is just one of the stupidest, dumbest things. I always talk about this here. And people get in their feelings and they sit here, you paper. You didn't go through a real process.
So when he says your paper, you didn't go through a real process, it seems to me that Roland Martin was never hazed. I don't know if he was part of Alpha Kappa Psi. Well, I don't know what fraternity he has on his shirt, but you can see the emblem he's wearing on his shirt. It's definitely Greek in nature, but the paper versus the actual hazing, like they would say that because you're paper, you didn't have to go through that process. And honestly, even if you went through the paper process, I don't even know why you would want to be affiliated or represent a fraternity that has a long history of hazing. I'm pretty sure that these sorority and fraternity members didn't dig deep into the history before they even pledged. Because if they know how satanic and demonic the history is, or how it originated, or the certain aspects and the origins of how their fraternity or sorority originated, I don't know. Maybe they would have some hesitation on pledging, but we're talking about young people that's trying to find identity. We're talking about young people that are coming out of maybe broken homes, coming out of being bullied in high school, who are in need of acceptance, in need to be part of something that would help them build their self-esteem. Maybe they're looking for belonging and acceptance because they didn't get that in their own homes, or they didn't get that in their own communities or at school. So they think that because if they pledge Greek, they'll find that home and they'll find that sense of belonging. But what they walked into was Devil's Inferno. That's what they walked into. They didn't walk into anything based on acceptance. or brotherhood or sisterhood. This is not brotherhood and sisterhood, brothers and sisters. When are y'all going to understand that? When are y'all going to understand that true acceptance is acceptance of self? The best relationship is the one you have with yourself. Where you find acceptance, you find that in here. Not anything outside of you is going to bring you acceptance. None of it. You can try, but you may have a very disappointing path ahead of you if you think that validation and acceptance will make you feel bigger than what you actually are. It's not. It's not.
To be dumb as hell to be a part of a fraternity or sorority, and you are beating people with canes. You're putting somebody in hospital. There is no aspect of that that's called brotherhood. And for anybody out there who's like, oh, see, you sitting there going in because it's the Kappa. No. Let me real clear. I've called out Kappas on this show for hazing. I've called out Omegas on this show for hazing. I've called out Alphas on this show for hazing. I ain't never been silent when it comes to hazing. But this is just the dumb shit that continues. And what these fools don't understand, Jolanda, is that they are literally, and you've seen it in Alpha Kappa Alpha. I've seen it in Delta Sigma Theta. I've seen it in every D9 organization.
So they're both part of fraternities and sororities. So I'm glad I brought this video up because you're hearing perspectives of two, both male and female, that were engaged in this. And these are two prominent figures. All right. And that's the thing. I don't have anything against what the sororities and fraternities produce. Okay. But the hazing part and the origins of it, of course, there is going to be that type of nefarious activity going on because of the origins of it and how it started, especially when you are dealing with ritualistic and occultism and these practices. You're doing these oaths and these ceremonies and these rituals that are giving reverence to these Greek gods and pledging allegiance to these spirits and these entities, and you don't even know what you're calling into yourself, and you don't know what you're calling upon yourself. There's the form of video that I did. Maybe it was the video before the last one that I did. You make a covenant, an oath where you're bound forever. Forever. There was a former pledge. She was part of, I believe, Delta Sigma Theta. She read out one of the oaths of the ceremonies that they do. And that's exactly what it said. It's like you're bound. Why would you want to be bound to something like that? Why would you want to be something that's steeped in violence and debauchery? Why would you even want that? Like, I would quickly denounce. If I was coming into the knowledge of what is going on in these hazing ceremonies or hazing rituals, plus finding out the background or the backstory of how these Divine Nine organizations started, if I was a soror involved in any one of the female Divine Nine organizations, and I'll read it out to you quickly. So the 4 sororities of the Divine Nine are Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Zeta Phi Beta sorority, and the Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. If I was in any of these sororities, I would quickly denounce if I knew what was going on. And you know, the sad part about it is most of these sororities and fraternities was founded and started at the most prestigious HBCU on the planet, which is Howard University. So, I mean, wow. Oh, also, let me read off the 5 fraternities. You have Alpha Phi Alpha, which I haven't covered yet. You have Kappa Alpha Psi, which is the one we're covering now. You have Omega Psi Phi, which is the fraternity that Caleb Wilson belonged to, who passed away. Then you have Phi Beta Sigma fraternity and Iota Phi Theta fraternity. So I haven't covered 3 of the 5 fraternities, and I covered 2 of the 4 sororities. But even if still, like, it all stems from a rotten root.
Must keep going up. There's going to reach a point where, guess what? We won't be able to be covered via insurance, and the actual organization these people claim they love will be put in jeopardy. It could very well get shut down because these fools don't know how to pledge people without being violent.
It needs to shut down because they're never going to learn how to pledge without being violent. It's already been soiled. It's been tainted. You got these ritualistic practices and all of these nefarious spirits that they're calling in. Like, it's always going to be this way. Especially with these young youths coming in, you know, they like the youths that's coming in are not like the youths of yesteryear. Some of them don't even give a damn. They just want power and influence. That's all they want. They want to wear the Greek letters and go on IG and social media and post up because they're part of something. They don't care about the origins of how this stuff started. You know, when they put on the Greek letters and they are affiliated with these Divine Nine organizations, all they care about is representation, how it looks. These young people are not thinking about dignity and integrity and humanity. And it's sad. It's sad what they're doing to each other when it's clearly against what the fraternities and the sororities represent, their mission statement. But what's so ironic about the mission statement, their message, as far as what their fraternities and sororities are supposed to represent, it's so far removed from what's actually happening. So it makes them look like a contradiction.
You know what, Roland? So let me just say that. I pledged undergrad, right? And we had an incident on my line. We were actually taken offline. And I can tell you, because of my experience when I pledged, it took me a while to feel like I was in a sisterhood with anybody, because you shouldn't be violent to people, right? And
so why keep going? You just heard her say she had to be pulled offline. There was an incident in her line that happened, and she had her reservations about whether or not it was a sisterhood. So why keep going? Common sense would have told me, yo, I'm out of here. I'm out. This is what it's supposed to represent, and I'm seeing that this is what's going on. I'm out. I don't even want that energy. Goodbye. At that point, I don't care about a Greek, nothing. I don't care about wearing them Greek letters. I don't care about representing one of the Divine Nine I don't care at that point. Why keep going? That's because the acceptance part of it, though, and wanting to be part of something bigger than themselves, like, that's what gets them. And what it would mean, or how it would represent, like, I'm an Alpha, Kappa, Alpha. And being part of these sororities and fraternities, that's like hurting your fellow man to a point where, like, you're putting them in a hospital or you're unaliving them. That's what you call prestige. If I was part of a sorority, and I didn't even experience that sort of hazing or to that extent. But I'm seeing where it's going now, and none of the elders of my generation are doing anything about it. I even covered in a previous video that they were covering it up. These elders, sorors, they were covering this stuff up. They knew the atrocities and they knew the violence of what was going on because of the hazing, and they did nothing. I would not want to be affiliated with anything like that.
So you try to explain that to people. I understand going through things, and my line sisters and I, we together to this day. We in each other's weddings, and we celebrate each other's birthdays. We go to Caravan in Toronto to celebrate together. So I understand the bonding, but I'm shocked it was grad chapter. Most times the fools that are doing this are the undergrads because they don't know no better.
Oh.
And they haven't been called well.
Okay. So this is, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense why the three suspects had very prestigious jobs. One was a U.S. Secret Service agent because they were part of the grad chapter. That makes it even worse. They weren't even undergrads. That makes it even worse. You would think after you graduate college and you have a prestigious job that you would have some kind of common sense not to do that, because you're putting your career at risk. I didn't even think about that until she said grad chapter. I didn't even think about that. It's crazy because in the first video that I posted about Delta Sigma Theta, I had mentioned, and I want to correct myself, it wasn't 2 years ago that I was approached. It wasn't 2 years. It was, this is 2026. It was 2022, 4 years ago. I was approached. Someone I met through a hiking group, I believe at the time, and she wanted to pledge Alpha Kappa Alpha really bad because her boyfriend was in a fraternity. And, you know, she thought it would be a good thing. I'm not going to fault her on that because I was even considering at the time, should I join? Should I join? It's a grad chapter. But now that I look back on it, my gut was like, nope, not for you. Not for you. You don't have to be a part of secret societies that have such a nefarious history like these Divine Nine organizations. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen. Like, what more evidence do you need? Four Divine Nine organizations I've already covered. And of the 4 that I covered, and what I'm just learning, there was a second one in the Delta Sigma Theta. In total, that's about 6 deaths in total that I covered so far. This one and the other 3 videos that I posted on my channel, that's a total of 6 deaths. And there's many, many more. And the problem is a lot of these stories fly under the radar or doesn't even get mentioned. It doesn't even get the proper coverage that it deserves.
Strict enough consequences for if you do it. So it makes no sense to me. It just put a stain on Kappa Alpha Psi. There are ways to build brotherhood and lifelong friendships and commitment to service without putting your hands on people. And I'll tell you, like I told people when I was online, if you put your hands on me, I'm knocking you out. Like I told my line sisters that, I told anybody who might think they're going to tell somebody to do that, because the days of beating folk, I mean, that just gives me remnants of like slavery. I don't understand it, and we need to stick together, but whatever charges are against him, they need to be against the people that did that. He could have very easily killed somebody. He could be facing a murder case. And now he's embarrassing what was you say was the Secret Service. I don't understand, but I'll say this again, Roland. The thing that shocks me is that it's grad chapter. Because grad chapter generally knows better.
It doesn't matter if you're grad chapter or undergrad at this point. Unbelievable.
Listen, on my Congo, I made it clear when I pledged. I ain't letting no dude my age put his hands on me. Because here's what I know. If my daddy found out I let some dude beat my ass for some letters, that beating would have been more severe. That wasn't going to happen.
That's real time. It's really sad. We've been talking, today about the attack on Black people, and we have situations right here where we are foolishly, doing this to ourselves. I mean, all of the things that we got to worry about. I have daughters. One is about to be a rising freshman in college. One is a rising junior in college. And I tell them, if you choose to go the sorority route, that type of stuff, that ain't love. That ain't building respect. That ain't building camaraderie. That's just straight up abuse. And ain't nobody gonna be putting hands on you like that. And they need to know. And I have a sister who's an AKA, tells them the same thing. We got to do better. And so many people are coming in these places already damaged, and they're just looking for ways to hurt other people. And
I'm gonna leave it right there. He said what I previously said. A lot of these pledges coming in, or a lot of these high-ranking fraternity members and sorors, they're already damaged. And they want to inflict pain onto other people. You don't know what's going through the mindset of some of these men and women who are initiating these brothers and sisters in. You don't know what's going through their mind. They might be, and this is a grad chapter, so they could be dealing with the stresses of the economy. They can be dealing with the stresses of their job. And it's like all of their fury and all of their frustration, they're taking it out on the next man or woman. A lot of them could be mentally ill. Narcissists, sociopath, psychopath. You don't know the type of people assisting with the pledging process. This is happening across the board. While I was doing research for this, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. When I was doing my research for this, there were legions. I'm talking about legions of white men that were being hazed. And I actually saw videos. I saw actual videos, and like the level of hazing that was going on in their fraternities, I mean, it was grotesque. I've seen videos of hazing where they were buck naked being hazed. Like, this is some sick shit, y'all. This is some sick shit. And it's so ironic that this is a grad chapter. So we're not dealing with, men and women that are just coming out of high school or in their like early 20s, late teens, early 20s. This is grad chapter. You heard for yourself the prestigious jobs that they had, and these jobs were jobs where they were supposed to protect or serve their communities, and this is what they do. Like, I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna put the sources in the description or comments. You guys can do a deep dive, but I'm going to come back with another one. But the other video that I'm going to do next week is going to be a recap. And it's going to include interviews and podcasts. I'm going to bring this series to a close, right? Because there's other things that's going on in the world that I can't wait to talk about. What I'm covering on this channel is going to be more from a spiritual aspect, and just to show the loss of humanity and where that is taking us. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like I'm going to base this channel on, and just talking about strong morals and having a strong moral code and having compassion for humanity, because ladies and gentlemen, we've lost it. It's a dark world we're stepping into. Until next time, y'all be safe out there, all right? Peace.